RMG's Trash Talk is brought to you by Scrubs 911, Somerset's medical uniform store. Learn more at scrubs911.com or like them on Facebook.
A lot of people don't know where RMG Sports got its start. We discussed this when we had Toby Hood on a couple weeks ago, the powerboat racer from Hollidaysburg, or from the Hollidaysburg area from Huntington. RMG started in 2000. 2 years afterwards, RMG Sports started in 2002. We started covering auto racing, motorsports at Jennerstown. And then that developed into covering motorsports throughout the region, and it kind of went from there. But that's where RMG Sports got its start. A lot of people know us for football, hockey, a little bit of basketball, our powerboat racing. We got started in motorsports, and we got started right here in Somerset County at Jennerstown. And as we progressed through that, we came across a number of people that helped us out. And one of the guys that's been helping us out for the longest time, and with Daytona right around the corner, I thought it was very timely to have this guy on, because Mike Satoski, been with us since, I think, 03, 04, with your C2C News that you had on, that Steve Richard introduced you into.
Absolutely.
Race fans, welcome to Chase to the Checker. Now, from the Romesburg Media Studios in Somerset, Pennsylvania, this is C2C News.
Hi, race fans. Welcome to C2C News for Saturday, July 16th, 2005. We'll begin our coverage of the 2005 Pittsburgh Vintage Grand Prix in just a few short minutes. First, we have these highlights.
With Daytona right around the corner, and you are big into motorsports in this area, everybody that's in racing knows you. I wanted to have you on the show, so welcome, Mike Sotosky.
It's a pleasure.
Now let's again, low expectations for this show, so we're not done with the interview yet, all right? Now let's go back. I want to talk about you and how you got into what we do. Now you got into media, how you got into announcing, PA announcing, all the stuff that you do now. It's interesting that we've had millions of discussions.
We have.
In the edit bay and at the tracks and everything. That you're a lot like me when you were a kid, listening to AM radio at night.
Oh, absolutely.
We always talk about this. Like I would listen to New York Ranger hockey. I would listen to Detroit Red Wing hockey. This is before the days of cable. We go all the way back to before cable television. And is that what got you fired up to be into media? What fueled your flames? I mean, you got a degree from IUP in comm. Mm-hmm. So what was it that made you want to do that?
Even prior to Jarred, I think the whole IUP, communications media / psychology, I was one of those, we grew up on sports, 70s, 80s, and there was nothing cooler to me. It was late at night, summer evening, stars are out, and having a little radio, battery-operated radio, and just going through and picking up Detroit Tiger games on WJR, or picking up Boston Red Sox games on WBZ, and just sitting outside and listening to these games as if they were in Pittsburgh or Johnstown or whatever. And there was just a fascination with that. So far away, but here I am listening to these wonderful voices calling the game, calling the Red Sox, calling the Tigers, the White Sox on Chicago station. It was I don't want to say WBZ, WGN radio, actually. But in some kind of weird way, that's how it started. When I would ride my bicycle to Little League practice, I was Mom and Dad were busy. I was the kid, I was the little dorky kid that had a little transistor radio kind of bungee corded to the front of my bicycle, and I would listen to just music, WCRO in Johnstown. So yeah, I think in some kind of weird way, I think that's how it kind of started when I look back.
So you're from the Johnstown area,
right.
Went to IUP, you stayed here. Did you work in the media coming out of college? Or I know you save the world now in social work, but you do your best, and you do more than what we certainly could. But did you work in the media? Did you work for a station or anything like that? Did you do any type of, what was your first job media related coming out of college?
Coming out of college was actually while I was in college. I, excuse me, my last 12 credits to obtain my bachelor's degree was an internship, was a daily internship for 4 months at one of Washington, D.C.'s premier CHR radio stations at the time, which was Contemporary Hits Radio, which is top 40, pop, whatever. It was Q107, WBXQ. No, not WBXQ, WQRX, excuse me.
Well, you better get it right.
I better get it right. That's
They'll
right,
come
because
after you.
they're probably watching.
Absolutely.
And they'll remember from 1980.
They're one of our dozen watchers out there. We say hello to all of our friends in Washington, D.C. So.
But it was those 4 months was actually, I met a lot of wonderful national voices. To this day, I still hear Johnny Holiday. I would work with Johnny Holiday every day. Johnny Holiday is the voice of University of Maryland Terrapin Sports. Frank Herzog I worked with. He was the voice at the time with Sonny Jurgensen and the great linebacker for the Redskins. They were the voice of the Redskins because it was an AM-FM combo. WMAL was the AM. They were the voice of the Washington Capitals. They were the voice of the Washington Redskins. And of course, then there was the Top 40 station. But that was it. I had that 12-credit internship. And from there, I applied for the Federal Bureau of Investigation, where I worked for several years. Imagine that.
Well, government working, we won't ask any questions about that. Now back here, back in the Johnstown area, your voice, they may not, now they're able to put a face with the voice, but your voice has been heard on many different events.
Well, it's like my wife said, I have a voice for radio, or I have a face for radio.
I get that a lot as well, yes, absolutely. Face for radio, no doubt. You've done a fair amount, and I'm going to skip around here. You helped us out, as I said, in 03-04 with Chase to the Checker because of your experience with racing. Let's go back. When did you first get the racing bug? I've seen the name Satoski and some old dirt track pictures and names and all that, but when did you first catch the bug with racing?
We would go to Jennerstown as a kid. My dad would take us to Jennerstown.
This is when it was dirt.
This is when it was dirt, the late 70s. Late 70s, my cousin Jack, Jack's dad and my dad were brothers. And Jack enjoyed a successful, a terrific career at Jennerstown, Bedford, Lernerville. And that's where it actually started. But then as I got older into high school, you know, you're doing the football thing. And then, of course, I went off to college. The racing just kind of, it went away. It all started again probably in 92 or 93 when I would drive back from work from Washington. I would stop at Bedford on Friday nights and watch the races and go to the races and it became kind of like a Friday night ritual, except on weekends. When I didn't come home, but I would stop at Bedford, and that's kind of where it started. And out of the clear blue, someone introduced me to Joe Padula, who at that time was the promoter at Bedford, and it was just very informal because Joe lived in Hagerstown, Maryland, he and his family. So there was a connection, that Maryland thing coming up 70. We would race up 70 sometimes and things like that, but. It was just out of the clear blue. He said he knew I worked at Q107 as an internship. He goes, I want to put you on a microphone here, and that was 1993. And I'm like, what? And it just very humbly started announcing at the Bedford Fairgrounds Speedway. That's where it all started it was April of 1993.
Then you hit the big time, and you joined the RMG Sports crew. And you did C2C News, and I tell you, it was your experience was invaluable because we had been, for the first 2 years of the show and the first 2 years of RMG Sports, we were strictly Jennerstown. That's all we did was Jennerstown. We knew everything about Jennerstown. We knew all the touring series that went through there, all the drivers that were there, and we knew nothing about dirt. So whenever I said, okay, Jennerstown's great, but now let's spread our wings a little bit. Let's go cover these late models I hear about. Let's go cover these sprint cars I hear about. Let's go cover this motocross that's happening around here. We brought you in, and you were a fountain of knowledge to help us with all that, and it certainly helped us through. And the connections remain today. I mean, you still do a lot of.
I do.
You still do all the stuff at Bedford, and now you've also spread out as far as racing is concerned. Now, back up a little bit. You also have done things at UPJ. A lot of announcing there with the wrestling. And do you do basketball as well?
I did do basketball. I did men's and women's basketball and volleyball. And which was very entertaining. I enjoyed it. But as the kids got older, as my kids got older and involved in their own, I had to really pull back. It just becomes, and you know this, Jarred, you can get overwhelmed working Monday through Friday, 8 to 4, 9 to 5, and then every night you're running here, you're running to UP, there's a volleyball game, there's a home women's game. So yeah, you had to just pull back a little bit.
And it's not as easy as just showing up. They think you just show up and you grab the microphone. No, there's a ton of prep. They're learning the roster, learning the names, getting the pronunciation right. And you can always tell when the prep hasn't been done with an announcer, and you get somebody from Cambria County, or just that they completely.
I wish I had time for every mom and dad and grandma and grandpa that stormed the scorers table this is how you pronounce that name. So yeah, you just learn to, you have to do the background, and by the same token, when you do get it right, those same people would come to, hey, thanks, you're the first announcer that said our name right, and just little appreciation like that. So you got to do the background, you got to do the preemptive stuff.
Head coach Tony Penna Jr. at Greater Johnstown made me an honorary Trojan, because before every game for game tape, and we'll get to game tape here in a little bit, I always go over the roster pronunciations with the coaches to make sure I got every one of the Greater Johnstown Trojans' names right. He says you're an honorary Trojan because you hit the nail on the head there. So let's move from. Now let's stay with racing. So you've been working with Bedford for a long time.
Well, yeah, there was a break. From 93, I was with Joe Padula the elder, 93 to 98. And that was about the time the kids were, my daughters were getting older and really getting involved in some things. And at that time I was doing 2 tracks because Thunder Valley in Central City had opened in 97. So it was like one of them things that, I can't do both nights.
That's tough. That's Friday and Saturday. That's your whole weekend. That's your weekend shot.
So we decided to pull back from Bedford, and Joe was very gracious and very amicable. He understood. Boy, there's so much here to even go.
Well, because Thunder Valley was right down the road. For those fans that don't know, Thunder Valley was a racetrack in Central City.
Right.
It was half-mile clay.
Dirt,
And it unfortunately, like so many tracks around here, is no longer in operation. But the big tracks that remain, Bedford and now Jennerstown, you are very much involved with.
Yes.
You do the Bedford on Friday night. We're talking about doing both Friday and Saturday. And last year, you worked heavily with Jennerstown as well.
I did. Well, what happened was they had approached me, and at the gentleman, I call them the Gang of Six. And you know who they are, Dennis Neary and Rich Palagruda, Hot Rod Morocco, Larry Heminger, Snooky Williams, Doug D'Amico. I think that's all 6. They had came to Bedford one night. I got a call from Dennis Neary. He said, Mike, listen, we were Bedford, and we want you to work for us. We want you to present our races. And I'm like, oh, geez, maybe you should talk to my wife.
Yeah, we're back again doing Friday and Saturday.
Right. They were very gracious in their presentation to me, and they were very complimentary, and I don't do it for that. It's still, I'm like anyone else. It's human nature to like to hear nice things about yourself, but I was so impressed with their connection. You have 6 guys that are really locked into Somerset County with people and fans, and let's just say they made an offer I couldn't, Mrs. Satoski couldn't refuse. So yeah, we're going to do Bedford, and we're going to have fun with Jennerstown this year on a full-time basis. They had Mike Lysakowski, who you know, Mike. Mike is a terrific voice and
another wealth of knowledge.
Exactly. And Mike lives in Newcastle. I think there may have been a logistical issue, coming from Newcastle, and me coming from Davidsville. But the bottom line is, the Gang of 6 were good to all of us. And when they made the offer, I just thought, let's do this. Let's have some fun with it.
Let's stay with racing now. You've been at it a lot longer than I have, but we've both seen Jennerstown at, I don't want to say its peak, but the nights they had NASCAR drivers there, and we were there with our cameras.
Right.
You couldn't get in. It was packed.
Absolutely.
Ticket scalpers out by the Tasty Freeze. I mean, it was crazy, those races.
Yep.
We've also seen the low points. I was there for a ride and drive, or a driving experience. The infield looked like a hayfield.
I remember you telling
me
me
the vandalism that happened there. It was run down, beat up. A couple guys from Altoona came in, fixed it up. Unfortunately,
and did a terrific job.
Did a terrific job of fixing it up, but a lot of problems with paying and some legal issues there. Now they're out of the way, but the new guys are in. And we saw great success last year. The couple of nights that I went, heard you announce and did a great job.
Thank you.
Huge crowd. Huge crowd. Car count, a problem. And we're seeing it across the board in racing. We had Toby Hood here, again, powerboat racing. His class has, when we were there covering it, they averaged 5 boats a race when there should be 10, 15 boats a race. Same thing at Jennerstown. What do you think? I mean, there are obvious answers and maybe not so obvious answers. What's a not so obvious answer to what's going on? Why do you think? Why is car count so low? Where'd they go?
Wow, you're putting me on the spot, buddy.
That's why we're here. This is hard-hitting journalism. All right, this is rough. He's zoomed in on you now. It's 60 minutes.
If we're on Fox News later, I certainly think the economy has a lot to do with it. Keep in mind, Jennerstown was closed for several years, and local drivers who would race asphalt, would love to race asphalt. Logistically, Motordrome may have not been financially feasible.
Plus, Motordrome in Smithton in Westmoreland County, they race Friday nights. That's been a problem as well. A lot of guys just don't have time to get off work and get everything ready and get to the track in time.
Maybe I should just focus on, I just think that the mindset and the business model of the Gang of Six, I think we are ripe right now locally, from Windber, Davidsville, the northern part of the county, the whole way down to Salisbury, Myersdale, Confluence. I think the market is ripe now. People saw what the excitement that was generated at Jennerstown, and maybe it's as simple as that. There just wasn't any excitement, or there wasn't the vibe for asphalt racing.
Before the guys from Altoona bought it, and Dave Wheeler was still, he still owned it. He wasn't operating, he still owned it, and had other people running it for him. It was a couple hundred. It was Saturday night. It was sad to see, because those of us that had seen it when it wasn't at its peak, but it was still very, very popular. It was sad to go in there and see. I can't tell you how refreshing it was to go there and see it packed.
It was.
I really didn't know what to expect. We went in there for a race, and we pulled into the parking lot, and we had to park all the way up at the tree line because it was so busy.
And I think you touch upon something. I think we as employees, the drivers and the fans, fed off that excitement, just as you described it, parking up by the tree line, because it was exciting to see all that people. And for the casual guy who always thought, boy, it'd be cool to do. You know, I could do this. There's an energy now that I could see. There just seems to be something out there now where guys are thinking, I can do this, and if I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it now. Because 7,000 people last year. I mean, over the course of the Bedford Fair, I was thinking about this and teasing my wife about it and some of my friends. Between 7,000 plus at the Bedford Fair, Friday night racing, between the 7,000 plus at Jennerstown, I was telling my wife, 14,000 people heard my big mouth over the course of this week.
Heard you mispronounce people's names.
She goes, that's 13,999 too many. No, but there is just an excitement. I try to not dwell on the negative as to what happened. All I know is we were here, and now we're here, and it is exciting. And just in your voice, just talking to people around, that there's something good's going on, both on the dirt and on asphalt.
Well, and I think that's great. I mean, it's, when we started Chase to the Checkered and we started getting a feel and a taste for the excitement of racing in this area, not just in the pits, but in the stands. And, to sit down and talk with some of the guys that have been at this a lot longer than us. We knew that a day of reckoning was coming. We knew that at the time there were just too many tracks. People were popping tracks open left and right. Latrobe opened back up. And then it just got to the point where there weren't enough drivers. So I think the thinning of the herd has happened. Anytime there's a big forest fire, it's ugly, it's bad, but also serves as cleansing, because then things grow from that. And maybe that's what we experienced. Maybe we experienced the forest fire, and now things are going to start to grow and be nice again.
I think that's a great analogy.
Thank you. I came up with that myself, right on the fly right now. So now let's shift, no pun intended, let's shift gears. Let's go, because another sport that a lot more people know about us for is football. And you've been with us from day one of Game Tape.
Yes.
You were also the PA announcer at Richland, and that's, I think I called you and said, hey, do you know anything about football? Well, yes, I do. Yes, I do. I said, well, good. When I called you about Game Tape, and I gave you the thumbnail sketch of the show, because it's a different show. If you haven't watched it, watch it, rmgsports.net. It will change your life.
Yes.
What did you think when I called you and said, hey, I want to get a high school football show into a half hour, no commercials on that?
Jarred, I think we had discussed this. This was one of our staffing meetings in the edit bays that we always had. That there, on any given Saturday afternoon, I think is overwhelmed the right word? There's football everywhere. There's football everywhere. And I just think that it became overwhelmed. Where am I going to sit for the next 3 hours on a nice fall Saturday afternoon, or even a nice even on a Sunday afternoon, and watch a full football game?
A high school football game.
Or a high school football game, right? Because what's cooler than a Friday night at a high school game?
Right.
You know, going out for some food and a drink afterwards and meeting some friends. You don't get that sitting and watching it on television. We had talked about, I had seen the Big Ten, some of the Big Ten network, the SEC network, we're already, you guys were on the same page, whether you knew it or not. They were condensing Clemson and South Carolina games into an hour. And I actually would get sucked into some of those games, even on the Big Ten. I watched Purdue and Northwestern in an hour. I watched it on a Sunday that occurred yesterday. So I'm thinking, wow, Jarred, that would be cool. And we all know how big high school football is for these local communities throughout Somerset County, Cambria County, Bedford County. So I was very excited about it. I was very flattered and humbled. I wasn't sure I was going to give you what you needed. My expert commentary.
Absolutely. It breaks people away from my ignorance and lets them hear somebody who knows what they're talking about.
But the concept I thought was going to be a hit, and here we are. We're getting ready for year number 6.
I think it's year 6, yeah.
Yep. So no, I think it's fair enough that the concept has worked. I think you had to siphon through some things, some different whatever you needed to do.
Anytime, what I say, anytime you start a show the way we start a show, because we're not a big network, we don't have a big corporate entity over us that gives us a budget to make it happen. We, as the guys here say, we eat what we catch. Any sponsor we get, that money goes into the show. It's not like that goes to some millionaire's pocket somewhere. That stays right here into what we do. And, you have to swim through that. I say it's like starting a business, which I've done now twice. And and both of them, well, one we have yet to see, but one has been successful. And you just don't know.
That's right.
You got to present it to the marketplace. If the marketplace reacts positive, then we're there. And so far it has, and every year it has with football and game tape.
And you've been successful in tweaking it too.
Oh, you have to. You can't stick it. Nothing's in.
You were on a change on the go, and it's worked.
Yeah, because nothing is in stone. You have to. When it gets put into stone, then you have problems because everything's fluid. Everything has to be. You have to be willing to make changes here and there and try to make it better every year. And I think that through your help as well, that's what we've been able to do. And we've seen some great games. And what I like the best is. We've seen a lot of kids now. We see this every year, but I pay more attention to it now because the kids that we see now weren't even playing when we started. So we've seen them through all 4 years.
Right.
Now to see some of them, we saw Jake Heupel here. He came on the show. Yes. And this is an open invitation to you high school players. Come on the show, talk about recruiting, talk about going to college, the whole process.
We'd love to get some of them Berlin Brothers Valley Mountaineers in
here.
Yeah,
we sure would if they would just come in. Don't say you can't do it. Come on in. You can do it. Coach Paul told you. But we'd love to have them come in. And we've seen them have great success. And we've seen them move from the collegiate rank now, or from the scholastic rank, onto the collegiate rank. And that's one of my best things. I love the fact that we've seen these kids when they were 16 and just starting, and now they're getting ready to go on to St. Francis, to Lock Haven, to Frostburg, to Juniata, Clarion, Geneva. I mean, it's just... and get an education out of it.
And these are very talented kids, both on the gridiron and in the classroom. But there's no doubt, Jarred, do not cut yourself short here. Game tape, I am absolutely convinced, was instrumental in a lot of these kids being exposed.
Well,
there's no doubt in my mind. And you've gotten some feedback from numerous Division 1 AA, Division 2, Division 3 coaches. And we're not here to sing our praises. That's not it. We're just happy that the outcome has benefited our local kids. I think that is fantastic. I mean, it's just, and I think that's where I'm at with you. It's very gratifying.
Well, I think that it says a lot about our area. A lot of people say, and I've said this in other interviews, where you live in an area that is a depressed area. I just don't buy that. I mean, we've operated a television production company in Somerset. I don't buy this whole depressed thing. People told me from day one we could never make it happen. That was 16 years ago. And now when we start shows and we do different things, we're doing things that you don't see this happening in Philadelphia. You don't see this happening in Pittsburgh. You don't see it happening in Texas. Game Tape is the only show of its kind in the United States that takes a high school game and puts it in broadcast, cable, satellite, and internet. We're the only one in the entire United States. So don't tell me we can't do that.
That's exactly right.
You know what I mean? So you got me off
And that
on
speaks,
a
well, no,
tangent.
that's okay though, but that speaks to your dedication to not only your business sense and your business model, but in really being a part of the community. So, kudos to you.
Well, thank you, and that's enough. We'll have to edit all that out. So. Let's talk Laurel Highlands Conference football.
Yes.
And we'd love to do Westpac, guys. Don't get me wrong. We love to do Westpac, and I hate to be long-winded about this, but we have Mike here. It's just
I'll be long-winded.
yeah. I mean, it's hard. It's hard to do 2 shows. We've done it, but just finding the sponsors for it—that's our biggest problem. And there isn't enough money to make it happen. We're going to try. We never say never, but so let's just stick with Laurel Highlands Conference. It's what we know. It's what we cover in game tape. Is it a dumb question to say who do you think is the one to watch in 16? I mean, these guys with this purple helmet back here.
My goodness.
Can anybody stop them in 2016?
Well, I got to tell you, Jared, in all honesty, I haven't looked at their roster, and we did several of their games. I'm trying to, off the top of my head, I can't think how many juniors and seniors were a part of those 22, starting 22.
There are a lot coming back.
Okay, well, I have to tell you, Coach Wheeler, he's that's a machine up there right now. That is a machine. We would have loved to have seen a District 5, District 6 single A final.
That would have been fantastic.
It would have been fantastic. But I got to tell you, I just don't know who would have gotten in the way of the purple machine.
Little fun fact here. Where did Coach Wheeler go to college, Mike? Can you tell me where he went to college? And who did he play football for?
Chuck, can you help me out here on this?
No, Penn State Nittany Lion.
Oh, is he?
That's
okay.
right. That's
okay.
right. So.
Well, there you go.
You Pitt fans can, I kid.
Well, you had to get one in.
I had to get one in. I'm sorry, and I really don't care. It's funny. Well, I mean, who do you think, out of all the teams, who do you think can give them the biggest run for their money?
From what we saw, I think Penn Cambria can reload.
I agree.
I think the Panthers can reload.
That, if I could say, I don't like to use the word disappointment because these are kids and they're all trying hard.
Right.
But I had higher expectations for the Penn Cambria Panthers in 15, even higher in 16.
Right.
I think they could do very well.
I agree. I right across the road here, I think Coach Landis is losing quite a few. So he's going to probably, 2016 I could see as a reloading year. Coach Bailey at Richland had a lot of young kids this year. There was a lot of underclassmen in that starting 22, and I think Richland could make some noise next year. And that's just not being their former PA. I truly believe that.
Well,
and all joking aside, did Westmont Hilltop surprised a lot of people?
That was the biggest shocker.
Absolutely, and good for them.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
Coach Barron, I believe it is up at Westmont Hilltop.
They surprised a lot of people. They surprised a lot of teams.
Right.
They may not have beat them, but they certainly gave them more of a run for their money than they had expected. And they did fantastic last year. They did fantastic.
And Bishop McCourt had a lot of young underclassmen too for Coach Basile. So I think that you keep an eye out for McCourt.
That's what we like about the conference. You just never know. There is, and I've said this to all 3 of the coaches from the conference that we've had here, I like the parity. I mean, yeah, you have the upper and you have the lower, but here in the middle, it's really in the middle.
It's jammed,
You just never know who's going to win. Let's move from football because we've gone way over time here. This is the inner tubes. We can do whatever we want, but we still like to keep it short because people are just hitting that button and we're out of here. I wanted to talk to you about an event that we need to be more involved with. It's a weird time of the year for us, but it's an event that you've been involved with, I believe, since the get-go. Talk to us about Cruising for Courtney. This is something that I want to get out there to all you fans.
Cruising for Courtney was an event that was put together. Courtney Lynn Rummel was a 15-year-old student at Conemaugh Township High School. She was battling cancer. I had gotten a call from the school district. This would have been probably the winter of 2005, early 2006. Hey, Mike, we're doing this fundraiser. They knew I did some announcing at Richland and UPJ. Can you come down and kind of MC this charity basketball game for Courtney? This is the deal. Did so. First time I ever met Courtney. And it touched you. I mean, you see these. Oh, yeah, I'm getting a chill right now. So from that point on, I thought to myself, I got to do something. We got to help these people. We knew their situation with medical bills and all that stuff. So I went to, I approached the people that I know best, my car friends, my hot rod friends, my racing friends. Lo and behold, we decided let's throw a car show together on the campus of Conemaugh Township High School. That's where she went to school. Cruising for Courtney. We scheduled it for Sunday, May 14th, 2006. Got the word out. We didn't have any advertising money, Jarred. We just, flyers, like the old rock and roll days. Remember the rock and roll bands?
Underneath windshield wipers, tacking them to
telephone poles, and that's what we did. Had a great turnout. It turned, and what's weird about that day was we were raising money for her. She passed away that morning. Which was
of the first event?
Of the first event.
Oh, wow.
It was Sunday, Mother's Day, May 14th, 2006. Some things you just don't forget. She passed away that morning. And as we told people who came to the show, I can still envision it in my mind. It was kind of, everyone was excited to come out and give some money. We didn't charge anything. We were asking for donations. We sold hot dogs and hamburgers. And when we told people that she had passed about 5 a.m. that morning, I can't even describe it, but the bottom line is, it just went from there. The family showed up later in tears.
The family came to the event?
The family came to the event about 2 o'clock in the afternoon.
Wow.
And they didn't want to talk or anything, but tears, they were up all night. Her little sister was there. But we handed them about $5,000 in, I remember Maxwell House cans. Change, $1 bills, $5, whatever. And after that day, I thought it was over with. But from a couple months later, the Rummel family approached me. Can we do this? Can we make this in every? Yep, we did it. So lo and behold, I did it. I did the first 9. I kind of coordinated the first 9. Great, a lot of fun. Just good stuff. We donated money to Birthright and to the St. Gabriel Project for healthy babies through St. Francis of Assisi Parish, which is in the west end of Johnstown. But I kind of backed out of it the last 2 years. I MC it for them, but I just had to back out. It became a full-time job in addition to, but it's still going on. The Rummels are getting ready for Cruising for Courtney 11. Sunday, May 29th at Greenhouse Park in Johnstown.
Is that Memorial Day weekend?
That is Memorial Day weekend. It's a Sunday,
okay.
yeah.
Okay.
And same deal. Tons of hot rod people. Jarred, I know you're a hot rodder at heart, a racer at heart. We get great support from Bedford Speedway, Jennerstown Speedway, the racers. I could just rattle off names: Dave Whetstone and Jim Saylor and Chris Rhodes and Dan Jackson, on and on and on. That bring their race cars after racing all weekend. They got to come to Courtney, and it's just a fun deal. And we certainly are, the racing community, the gearhead community, the hot rod community, certainly made a positive out of the passing of a little girl.
And not to say that this doesn't happen in other sports, but I got to tell you, being involved with racing now for well over a decade, and all kinds of racing, not just a short track, but national powerboat stuff,
right,
motocross stuff, all the different things that we've gone to, all the different types of events. If there's something like this going on, and there's a hat being passed, or a Maxwell House can being passed, at the end, it's full.
Absolutely.
It's full. Now, I know that kind of stuff goes on at other places in gyms and facilities all around, but it just seems like there's so much more of a family atmosphere with racing, and when something like that pops up, that can's full.
Jarred, I can tell you, I've lived it, I've experienced it, and take nothing away from others, but I can tell you from what I've experienced in the car community, the racing community, there are no bigger hearts, there are no bigger souls. When it comes to, and if they're down to their last 5, it's going in that can. It's truly amazing. It really is.
Well, we've covered a number of topics here this time, man, and I got to tell you, I appreciate you coming in.
I hope we didn't bore anybody.
They've already tuned out. Nobody's watching this. But no, I wanted to get you on the show. I wanted you to be our first guest on the show, but we got the show running at the end of last season, football season, and I had to get the coaches on.
Absolutely.
I had to get Coach Wheeler on, had to get Coach Landis on, had to get Coach Penna on, all the guys that their teams had done well or they had shocked the world or whatever. And then the holidays hit, and next thing you know, the holidays hit, everybody scatters. But I appreciate you coming in. Racing season right around the corner. Watch, listen, and watch. You're out there. They'll see you. Watch and listen for Mike Satoski at Bedford Speedway on Friday nights, Saturday nights at Jennerstown Speedway. Anytime up at UPJ, you never know when you're going to hear this guy pop up. And of course, listen for him on that award-winning RMG's game tape.
Absolutely.
For his amazing prognostications and vocal harmonies and melodious tones that you'll hear on the show. But Mike Satoski, you're an incredible part of our family and part of our
thank
team. You dress very well for television.
I
also,
do.
I have to tell you, and we appreciate you coming and
My
being on the
pleasure,
show.
Jared. Thank you for everything.
Thanks, pal.